Before we read, I have a question for you. Is the Christian life just too simple for you? Is the Christian life just too simple for you? And the reason I ask that question is because for us as believers, the answer should be yes. I didn't ask, was it easy? I asked, is it simple? In 2 Corinthians, in chapter 11, Paul makes an emphasis of this. He wants, before he asks the question, or before he makes the statement, he wants to prepare them for this, and he wants them to just put up with a little bit of foolishness. He says in chapter 11, verse 1 of 2 Corinthians, I wish that you would bear with me in a little foolishness. But indeed, you are bearing with me. For I am jealous for you with a godly jealousy. For I betrothed you to one husband, so that to Christ I might present you as a pure virgin. And then here's the statement. But I am afraid. That always grabs my attention when the Apostle Paul says, I am afraid. If Paul was afraid of something, then I need to take note of this. That as the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, your minds will be led astray from the simplicity and purity of devotion to Christ. Now, I'm reading from the New American Standard, and I was once asked a question by an older brother, why do the newer translations put the words in of devotion? I never really noticed it before, but I know in the New American Standard those words are italicized, and I know a lot of other translations use similar wording. And it's there to help us understand better what the intent is. But after that challenge, I read it again without those words, and it goes like this. But I am afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, your minds will be led astray from the simplicity and purity to Christ. The reason I began by asking the question, is Christianity too simple for you, is simply because we as believers, so often we have forgotten the fact that the answer should be yes. The Christian life is simple. Not easy, but simple. Now, over the years, when I make this statement or preach this, there's been two lines formed in front of me. There's been one line of believers who are very angry with me and not shy to let me know it. There have been other believers that have actually become relieved and released from their own insufficiency to live the life of the sufficiency of Christ, which is what he saved us for, right? John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, but I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Is this our life? Which line do you identify with? I remember one young man, he was a father, a husband, and he was quite upset with me for saying that we as believers are to rest in Christ. And he wanted to know, how can I say that when I have a family that I have to take care of, a business that I have to run, when I have debt that has to be covered? How can you say that I should be at rest? I had one young man very upset with me after a class, yelling at me in the front of the class, just the two of us left in the room. And he telling me, Kelly, you have no idea what my past has been like. You have no idea what I have to deal with. You have no idea what I have done. You have no idea. And my response was, brother, you have no idea who Christ is. And I remember him storming out of the room and stomping down the sidewalk. Because as a believer, he could not believe or accept the simplicity of the life of Christ. On the flip side, I remember another student who showed up, and on day one, we knew there was a problem there. Have you ever met somebody like that? Someone who has that incredible talent of being a loner in a crowd of people. She dressed all in black. She dyed her hair black. She wore long sleeves. Came from Canada to Texas, and in the fall in Texas, it's as hot as it is in the summer. But she wore that long sleeve hoodie. She'd sit in the corner of the room. One day in class, she heard a statement like this: if you're waiting until you get all your ducks in a row before you go to Jesus, you will never go to Jesus. And she got up from her desk, she went to her dorm room, she got on her knees, and she entrusted her life to Christ. She came by my office to let me know what had happened. And then we watched a transformation. You see, the reason she dressed the way she dressed, the reason she was the way she was, is because she hated herself. She didn't believe that there was a peace or a freedom for her. And so she dressed like this to cover herself up, to hide from others. And she was slashing her wrists. She had huge scars, so she kept her arms hidden. But when she came to know Jesus and the simplicity of his life, she took the hoodie off and she started to wear short sleeves. She was an incredible person when she came to understand the simplicity of the life of Christ. So for the one who is to walk in relationship with God in Christ, it has always been the same standard. It must be found by faith in Christ. But isn't that what Paul also proclaims in Galatians 2:20? For I have been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by, what's the word? Faith. And the Son of God who loved me and delivered himself up for me. And just a few verses down from there in Galatians 3:3, it says this: Are you so foolish? Having begun by the Spirit, are you now being perfected by the flesh? Having come to that point in our life where we recognize our need for Jesus, placing our faith in Christ, are we now living according to that which we have been rescued from? Are we now dependent upon that which we have been rescued from? So often we think of salvation as being heaven. Rescued from hell that we might live in heaven. And though salvation does involve that, that is not in and of itself salvation. Salvation is not about us getting out of hell to go to heaven. It's about heaven coming back into us. Whether they are believers or unbelievers, everyone lives by faith. You are either living by faith in yourself, or you are living by faith in Christ. And with that, I have come to find that every believer lives by faith. He or she lives by faith in Christ, or he or she lives by faith in himself or in herself. And so often we don't even realize it. Christ is not found in our best effort. He is not found in our busyness. He is the source of our activity. So live according to the source. Paul says, I'm afraid. As the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, your minds will be led astray from the simplicity and purity to Christ.
My name is Kelly Daugherty, and you've been listening to a quick reminder from the His Hill podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can do so through email, and that address is Kelly, Kelly, @hishill.org. Thanks for listening, and remember, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus.